We're all chasing productivity. But what if the very things we think are helping us, those strict deadlines, the super detailed plans, are actually the traps that are holding us back? Well, today we're going to uncover some of these hidden workplace rules that can sabotage our best work, and more importantly, how we can break free. We've all heard the phrase, right? Work smarter, not harder. It's the dream. It's the difference between trying to shove a giant, clunky cube up a hill and just gently guiding a perfect sphere. But getting to that point, that feeling of ease, it's not just about how hard you try. It's about the entire system you're working in. And a huge part of that smarter approach these days is, of course, technology. I mean, AI tools are absolutely everywhere, and they promise to be the ultimate productivity hack, right? They can draft our emails, brainstorm killer ideas, even create stunning visuals for us, all so we can focus on the big picture stuff that really matters. But here's the twist. What if, even with the most amazing AI on the planet, we're still spinning our wheels? What if the real problem isn't our tools at all, but the invisible rules we live by at work? Those beliefs about how projects have to be done that we just never question. Okay, let's start with a big one. I call it the deadline trap. We're taught from day one, in school and at work, that the deadline is sacred. It's this immovable object on the calendar that controls absolutely everything. But is that really the best way to get things done? Because this is what usually happens when we're driven only by a deadline. We see that date on the calendar, and it kicks off this frantic sprint to the finish line. We end up cutting corners, we skip really important steps, and we often deliver something that's kind of broken, and the team is totally burned out. All just so we can say we hit the date. So what's the alternative? Well, instead of trying to plan and control every single detail to hit some far-off date, the mindset shifts to something much more agile. It's about experimenting and adapting. It's about learning as you go and making real, tangible progress, not just ticking boxes on some giant project plan. And that brings us to our very first truth. The real goal shouldn't be a single exhausting sprint to the top of a mountain. It should be a steady, continuous rhythm of delivering value. This is the whole idea behind continuous shipping. You prioritize momentum and getting real feedback from the real world over just hitting an arbitrary date. All right, on to our second trap. And oh man, this one is so tempting. It's that moment in every project when someone says, hey, while you're at it, could you just add one more thing? It seems totally harmless, right? But it is a very, very slippery slope. The official term for this is scope creep. And honestly, you can think of it like an invasive vine that just slowly starts wrapping itself around your project. It blurs the lines, it makes the whole thing grow out of control, and it usually happens without anyone ever really talking about what it's going to cost in time, money, or most importantly, quality. This quote just nails how scope creep sneaks up on you. It's almost never one huge change. It's a death by 1,000 tiny cuts. No single little request seems like a big deal. So you say, sure, we could do that. But by the time you get to the end, the project looks nothing like what you originally set out to build. So this really lays out the choice we have to make. The temptation is always just to squeeze in that new request. But when you do that, you weaken the entire structure of the project. The smarter, more stable approach is to protect the quality of what you're building by adjusting the scope, which might mean saying no, or at least not right now. And this leads us to our second big truth. In any project, you're always balancing three things: your time, your budget, and the scope of what you're building. You literally can't change one without affecting the others. The secret is to treat quality as the one thing you will not negotiate. So if something has to give, let it be the scope. Reduce the scope, never the quality. And that brings us to our final and maybe the most common myth of all. This idea that if we just plan hard enough, if we think through every single possibility and build the perfect color-coded plan, success is basically guaranteed. But plans are fragile. The real world is messy. So what's supposed to guide us? This is where this really powerful idea of a lighthouse of purpose comes in. It's not a detailed map telling you every turn to take. It's the guiding light way out on the horizon. It's the core reason, the why, that your project even exists. It's the thing you steer towards when your perfect little plan inevitably gets thrown off course. Now, this might look a little technical, but the Stacy Matrix is a brilliant way to understand why those perfect plans always fail. See, it shows that while some work is simple and predictable, most of the important work we do is complex. And in that complex zone, you can't just plan your way to the solution because the path isn't clear from the start. You have to poke around, see what happens, and adapt. So, this all leads us to our third and final truth. Stop sprinting toward the mirage of a perfect plan. Instead, take small, iterative steps toward your lighthouse. Every single step is a chance to learn something, which lets you adjust your course as you go. It's a journey of discovery, not just a race to some predetermined finish line. So, how do we put all this together? Well, escaping these traps isn't about learning one new trick. It's about adopting a whole new philosophy for modern work, one that's flexible, that's resilient, and most importantly, one that's guided by a really clear sense of purpose. These three truths really form a powerful system for navigating pretty much any project. First, focus on consistent progress over arbitrary deadlines. Second, always protect your quality by being willing to reduce scope. And finally, let your purpose, your lighthouse, be your guide through all the uncertainty that's bound to come up. And here's why that is so incredibly important. In any project, plans are going to change, deadlines are going to shift. That's a given. But your purpose, that can be the one constant. If your whole team is aligned on that why, you can navigate any storm and still end up in the right place. You know, it is so easy to get lost in the day-to-day tasks, the endless meetings, the deadlines, and the feature requests. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. What's the lighthouse you're steering toward? What's the real why behind the work you do every single day?